acknowledge your presence for everyone and me. So we go to the next speaker of the day. The next speaker of the day has an inspiring story to tell us. She is Dr. Nivedita. She's a good friend. I came to know about her 3 years back. We met each other and kind of fell in love with each other more than 3 years back. So the first time I saw her was at Suma Varghes's. She had created a get together, and I went there. This was the lady sitting right in the corner. I looked at her, and something about her said, "This woman is a woman of substance." I was intrigued by what she was talking. I couldn't figure out from her face that she was a doctor because she didn't have any of that doctor, that doctor story that you have, that hey, Dr. Saibahu, that story wasn't there. And was talking, how it is. She was extremely humble. And all that she was talking about really touched my heart. To be really honest, there have been times when she's helped me because I remember we were again meeting with our class. Pooja, if you could please mute your, yes, thank you. So we were at a get together which had happened basically at Nainital, if I'm not mistaken. And I felt very, very unwell, extremely unwell on the way. I'm not very good in the hills. And I'm a very big emotional fool. I keep a lot of clutter inside me. I hear a lot of people, so I don't release. And up the hills, we were 4 of us in the car, and I couldn't move. I was literally hopping mad with myself that why can't I control myself? But this lady, she just took me out of the car, put me flat on the ground, and let the others go. She was like a little angel for me on that day. So she's been in a role of a friend, a sister, a nurse, a counselor, and many more. And I really wanted her to talk about her life. Because a doctor who's an eye doctor, and two people in my life who are eye doctors have actually put a lot of light in my life. One is Dr. Kwesi and the other is Dr. Nivedita. So thank you, Dr. Neve, for coming today.
Thank you, Anu, for having me over. Your platform is always not only a pleasure to be on, but also a privilege. And I would say feelings are very mutual. Thank you for your kind words. And yes, I would like to just address myself as Nivedita. The rest of the labels, I really don't like attaching them. There's a place for everything. Yes, I'm a doctor in my own space, in my own hospital when I'm dealing with patients. Otherwise, I'm nothing more than an earthling. That's how I like to introduce myself to people, that I'm an earthling. And brought onto this earth by two very beautiful human beings, two lovely souls, my parents. And I'm eternally grateful to them for what I am and where I stand today in my life. Yes.
So Neve, carry us your childhood, because I met your mom and dad and they're really beautiful people. But I don't know many children actually say that their parents aren't beautiful. So carry us to your life. And actually, even before you begin your life, Neve,
yeah,
about your dad's life. You remember the story that you keep telling me, and that's very intriguing. Let's just begin with the real beginning, your papa's life.
Yeah, sure. So survival instinct, like we all human beings are born with survival instinct, but I think I've also inherited my survival instincts from my dad. Okay. So he's my life's hero, and he has fought lot of battles and a lot of wars in his life to begin with basic survival as a child. So when he was born premature. I think in the 7th month itself, my grandmother, went into premature labor, and he was absolutely underweight. He was the first child, and when he was born, he could be held, in the palm. He was this small a baby. Like my granny would say, it was like one, it looked like a small little rat you could hold in a hand. Like, it was that small. And when the doctor looked at the baby way back, like I'm talking more than 80 years back, the doctor said, Don't even announce it to the world that you've had a son. There is no need, there's no point in telling anybody. And just a few more breaths this kid has, and I'm sorry, he's as good as dead. And they left him in a pan, in a tray, near near a basin, near a sink, and the doctor walked away. So when my great grandmother came to know, she was like, what happened, like, has my grandchild born, what is it, and all of that. And then when she heard this doctor come out and say, hey, I mean, don't even bother, like, I mean, the child is not going to survive. So she said, hey, but what do you mean the child is not going to survive? Right now he is breathing, his heart is beating, he is breathing. So don't you dare say that my grandson is no more. Okay, and I am going to go in and pick up my grandson, and I'm going to celebrate his birth. And so she walked in, she picked up my dad in her hand, and and she actually nursed my dad, and she would, use those cotton balls, dip them in milk and like feed, because my grandmother wasn't even lactating at that point in time. And his journey in life began from there. Right from his first breath, he's been fighting for life, and he's gone through many of such phases, and he's always come out a winner, a warrior. And that's what I've grown up looking at also. So, that survival instincts and that ability to really, face what comes your way. I have a great example in my house itself, and I'm grateful, and I feel so blessed to be born to him. Not only him, but my mom too. She's a wonderful, wonderful lady, a complete disciplinarian. She's the one who's inculcated all the discipline in our lives, because dad was somebody who would not be around too much because of his work. And we were in a transferable job, so we shifted places every 2 years. So it was mom who would literally kind of be the strict person at home. But both of them, have given us such beautiful values and virtue in life, which we really, me and my brother, have a younger brother who's 5 years younger to me, and we really hold them close to our heart. And I feel it's a wonderful legacy, which, we've inherited from them, and we both actually live it.
Wow. So Neep, I'm just thinking very loudly. Had your grandmother not picked up your dad on that day, had she not believed that he was alive and continued nurturing him, I wouldn't have had a beautiful friend sitting across me.
Yeah, I wouldn't be here if he wasn't there. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that's what, so I feel, what I live, one of the mantras that I live with is yes, I can, I come from a space of, yes, I can. I never come from a space of skepticism, or I don't know, or is this really possible, or, this is impossible. And I think that mantra of, yes, I can, comes from that space that, yes, we all can, we should never doubt it,
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit of your childhood. And when you were talking about it, it felt like it was a fairy tale. Just tell everybody about your childhood.
Yes, childhood, absolutely a fairy tale childhood, and a lovely life with my parents I've had. My dad was in a transferable job, like I said before. So I went to nearly 7 convent schools till my 10th grade. So every couple of years I was in a new school, new environment, new friends, new places. So culturally, I really grew well, because I got exposed to different cultures, different set of people. And I think that really helped me become very flexible in life, and my adaptability factor went up very high. But the other side of it, the flip side is I never made friends, over a period of time, because by the time I could get to know somebody and be friend, I would shift places, and those were not the times of telephones and cell phones, and, we could keep in touch or whatever. So yes, I really don't have thick school friends, like many would say, like, you know, they went to a school for 10 years and they have their school right from the first grader. I don't have those kind of friends. My friends who are really thick belong from my medical college days, because I think that's the longest I stuck around in one place to do my, you know, graduation, you know, so those are my buddies from medical colleges. So yes, like I said, because I went to different schools, different kind of people, the adaptability factor was really very high. And
ਕਰਦੀ ਕੰਮ
I
ਸੀਸਾ
really
ਕੁਰਤੀਆਂ ਦਾ
am grateful that
Neve, unmute yourself, please. Yes. Unmute yourself, please.
no, I didn't mute myself. Yeah, okay. That was what like my school life was, and we traveled a lot, and my parents were always the kinds who would like plan holidays, take us places. And you know, the environment of at home, like you said, the fairy tale, I call it that, because whatever was required, whatever was wanted was always available. There were no, like, and I never faced any financial crisis in my life, or I never went through that phase of any kind of a discrimination between a girl and a boy. You know, I mean, these kind of narratives were never ever there in our family, that, oh, you are a girl, he's a boy, or I mean, nothing. I was completely oblivious to the world outside till I think wait till in my late 30s, when I got exposed to the world outside, where I started realizing that these things do exist, and which was for me, life was really hunky-dory, a peaceful, lovely place to be in. You know, you get to do what you want to, you get to dream, you can go out and achieve what you want to. And then, of course, suddenly...
I want you to stop. You know, a lot of people will ask me, but she had a hunky-dory life. Then why have I put her here as an inspiration? You know, most of us feel if you have a fairy tale life, you have nothing to show.
Yes.
You think, then why have I put her here, and why am I calling her an inspiration? I want you to just go back a little bit before we actually tell them why you're an inspiration. Just go back a little bit. You went through so many cultures, so many different schools, and you didn't have one specific place until you reached the college. So what is one of the best memories in that 30 years? I mean, in the fairy tale, let's really put the icing on the top and let us give them the best memory that you can ever taste.
The best memory of growing up was, I think for me, it was, you know, the freedom. I think the word freedom, because I lived so freely, you know. I think that formed the basis of my life, was freedom to just do and be, because my parents always, you know, I had to just inform them, I had to just tell them, and it were I made my own decisions, I lived my life on my own terms, and they were always so supportive. So I think, you know, when you ask me this question, Anu, be it in school, any excursion, 2 days, 3 days, you have to go, you know, I mean, my parents were the first one who would go and pay the money. I was the one who would always carry that pocket money, extra money on my, you know, trips. And, you know, I was the one only in the class who would go shopping for things when we had to get back.
Nevertheless,
yeah.
From the show, you had a too good a life.
Yeah, I had too good a life. Yes. There's nothing that I can say. It's very difficult to pick up one good thing about those years of my life, because everything was just so perfect. Yeah.
You're completely disqualified from this show. You can't further because your life was perfect. Because people don't like perfect stories.
Mm-hmm.
So let's carry them to the area of your life where you actually understood what life was.
Yeah, sure.
Further. Because people think that just 30 years of a fairy tale, and you're a doctor, everything is paid for, you have parents next to you, you can't be complaining, and you're not complaining, you've never complained. So what are you doing here? Inspiration thi yaar. Chaliye, bataiye actually hua kya? What really happened? That
yes, when you asked me to be on the show, and I said, you know, Neve, I would want you to come on the show. And, you know, remember, it's been like 3-4 months you've been chasing me to be here. And I said, is there really something about my life that's really inspiring? I really don't know. I think everybody's lives are inspiring. You know, it's just not me. Why are you picking on me? You know, but yes, like for what I can share here is my life took a complete turn, you know, a complete 180 degrees turn completely from that fairy tale kind of a life. And I saw the other side of life when I got married. So, and trust me, I was not prepared for it at all. Okay. So it so happened, to be very frank, I was somebody who never really wanted to get married, and my parents are absolutely cool about it. And they always believe that marriage is not a must in life. It's about a choice that you make. And, so they never chased me. They never said, hey, your biological clock is ticking away. It's time for you to get married, settle down. All those kind of narratives were never a part of my life or my family. But then one fine day, yes, this Mr. Charming came my way, and yes, we fell in love, and we decided to get married. And I'm somebody who really, was very clear about the kind of life that I want, or the kind of person that I am. Like, I'm somebody who's really very ambitious, and apart from that, I'm somebody who's very inclined towards social service. I was never the kind who was chasing money. I never got into a medical profession with the aim of making big bucks. It was always service oriented. It was always philanthropy. It was always empathy and compassion and service that got me into this profession. So all those things, and I had made things very clear before I got into this relationship, and what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, what I like to do, what I would not like to do, and all of that. And yes, I went into this phase of my life where things were completely different. And I went into a complete emotional hell, I would say. Those 4 years of my life really brought out the worst in me. They always say, you should surround yourself with people who bring out the best in you. And here I was in a space which got the worst out of me. Like, it really got the worst out of me. And I started discovering a different side of myself, which I had not seen it for my own self before. And I was in a space where I was kind of discovering myself in a very different, not so good space, And I was like, oh my God, what's happened to my life? What is, and I would pray, I would cry, and I would tell the Lord, why did you divide my life into two exact halves? Probably, like, the first half is like perfect and like, hunky dory. And now I'm here, like, why couldn't it be like a little bit of ups and downs in my life, so I could kind of get used to this kind of things also, and be prepared for such things to come my way. But I was there, and I was trying to do whatever best I could. It's not that I wasn't giving my best shot, but I was in a very different state of mind, Andu. To a point, I would say I went into depression. I also, because I myself being a doctor, I knew I was going there and how difficult it is to get out of that space. So I did go see a shrink, saying, look, I think I need help. I need to, so the thing is, the long and short of it is that I went into a completely different, culturally different family, and it was becoming more and more difficult to cope up with a lot of expectations. So today, of course, I would say that I have not come out of it with a lot of bitterness or anything. I don't hold anything against the family or my ex or whatever. I think everybody in there did whatever their best was, and we were not on the same page, so it was time for us to move on and pursue our own things in life.
One thing that struck me when you were talking was that there was one day that you realized that you were talking about the bank.
Yes, financially, those 4 years, Anu, were the worst of my life.
Can you tell people what happened on that day?
Yeah, so like I said, my life was hunky-dory till the time I got married. Money was not an issue. Things were like absolutely fine and rolling. But I think those 4 years of my life, I had just begun my practice also. I was into my private practice just 2-3 years. And how as a doctor, you're just building up your practice. It's not like you're making a huge amount of money. You're just trying to kind of, build your reputation, build your name, And financially, I was taking care of my myself and of course my staff and my other things, whatever. It was not like I was dependent on the family for my own kharcha, or to or my staff and other requirements or whatsoever. And so it was just meeting the two ends, like, and I'm somebody who, like I said, love to travel with my family. There were always weekends, they were always traveling, and these 4 years I didn't travel at all. I think a marriage, honeymoon, and that's it. I don't think I went even till drove even till any of the weekends we were out or whatever. So I was just stuck in to the house, not traveling anywhere, and financially it got so bad that I would somehow, I became like a daily wage worker. Whatever I would earn for that day would kind of come in handy to help me, get through to my next day. So there was this time when I had a ligament tear. I met with a minor accident of sort, and I had to get my MRI done. My orthopedic guy said, you need an MRI, and MRI was costing $5,000, and I didn't have that kind of money. I didn't get my MRI because I didn't have that kind of a money. There was nobody who was really coming forth and supporting me and saying, hey, you need to do this, and let's get an appointment, or let's go get it done. So I just kept it away for years together, for months together. I never went ahead and did that. There was a time when I was needing $500 so badly, to pick up some groceries or something, and I went to the bank to withdraw 500. I didn't have any money on me. And the lady at the counter told me, she said, you have a checkbook facility, right? I said, yeah. So she said, the minimum balance is $1,000, and you already have only $500 in your account. So you can't withdraw 500. In fact, you should be putting in 500 more. Otherwise, we will withdraw your checkbook facility. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's like, sorry, you can't withdraw, ma'am. You can't withdraw that 500. I literally came out of the bank, all teary eyes. And that is one moment in my life I can never forget, because I was so broken. I was so broken, saying $500 is all that I need. And, what I didn't want to go back to my parents asking for money, or for that matter, anybody else saying, look, I need money. Could you give me money? So that moment is kind of frozen somewhere in me. And I said, oh God, I mean, I realize how it feels not to have something, and that really, I think, again, helped me become, go deeper into, trying to help people. I think that was one of the reasons why, again, it gave me a push into my charitable trust, into my work of philanthropy with my group. Yes.
Wonderful. And so nothing went waste, right?
Nothing goes waste, Anu. Nothing goes waste at all, because I feel everything that comes into your life, it comes so that you can evolve as a human being. You can reach higher grounds. You can evolve to the next rung of the ladder of evolution. So yes, I went through, I'm not going deeper into the personal relationships or anything over here. All I wanted to say that it was very traumatizing. The whole period was very traumatizing. And then, of course, I filed for the divorce, and it was a mutually agreed upon, and I was out of it. But trust me, it added so much of, value and growth to my personality, that I was able to, after that, go out and help out so many other women who were needing help in their marriages. In whichever way possible, I was there, because I could understand what it felt. Because, like I said, certain things were like very alien to me. When people would say, I don't feel like going back home, or when people would say, hey, it's so, there's so much of stress in my house. These things were all very alien to me, because home was one place where you look forward to go back each day. I mean, that's one of the most beautiful places. But then I too went through those kind of emotions where I didn't feel like going back home. I would have so much of stress just wanting to go back home. And then I realized what people mean when they say these kind of things. So I saw the other side of life, which is not so hunky dory, and it really helped me evolve a lot. Yes.
So, how did you take those experiences and what are you doing right now?
So yes, one of the best things I think for anybody is any human being is education. I think education forms the basis, and it's most important that you pursue that. My parents were also always of the opinion that everybody needs to be on their own feet. They have to be earning their own money so that you don't have to ask for money from anybody. And that's what education gave me as a specialist. I took up ophthalmology. I became an ophthalmic surgeon, and then I also delved into clinical research. I went to college while I was married. I finished my diploma in clinical research, and I jumped straight into it, doing a lot of research work, presenting a lot of research work across the globe. In fact, I traveled a lot after I got out of my, marriage. I was, presenting papers across the globe. In fact, I am one of the first Indian to win the Orbis Medal, which is one of the most prestigious, medal as far as ophthalmic research papers are concerned. And yes, I've had my laurels and accolades coming my way since then. And I jumped completely into my work and also doing a lot of eye camps all over. So I've been actively involved with rural eye camps and rural surgical, cataract camps in Mokhara and Johar and that area. So life's been beautiful after that, because I think one thing that I learned was that I didn't carry that bitterness. I did not carry that sadness with me. I left it. I said, yes, this is how it was meant to be. And I grew from there. I grew from there tremendously. I think I always believe that things happen for a reason. I'm a believer in karma. I always feel that it was meant to be, whatever happened. And like I said, if things don't go your way or something bad happens to you, it was meant to be for your own good. So everything is for my own good is what I always believe in. And that's why even this little bit of a rough patch which happened in my life, I am grateful for that. And like they said, if a courier guy or if a postman comes to your door and delivers you a bad news, you don't blame the postman for that, right? That was meant for you. It was addressed for you. So in the similar way, events, situations, people come to us in our lives for reasons, and no, none of them are meant to be blamed for it. It's our own doings, and it's meant for our own good. And that's the faith with which I live my life. Yeah.
Wonderful. You've done a lot of work in the last 6 months. I mean, you've been doing work ever since, but COVID time, you just took it to another level. So can you tell people
Yeah.
what?
So when this pandemic began and when we headed out for lockdown towards the end of March, and everything just shut, and that was a time when the frontliners in our country were really going to be needing that kind of a backing, because we were all learning with each passing day newer things about COVID from Europe, from UK, from America, where it had hit us before it came to our land. So at that point in time, the private sector was not as active as the government sector was the one who was leading the COVID crisis. They were helping out. So me, along with my team, the Helping Hands Charitable Trust, which is run by my friend, and that group, we went all out supporting the frontliners. So right from providing them accommodation, providing them food, 3 meals a day, because they are the ones who are going and fighting against this virus, and they also need to be in a better space, not only physically, mentally, but emotionally. They can't go back to their families. They have that fear of infecting their families when they go back home. They have to be eating well. Initially, the PPE kits were not available in abundance. So they had to wear the same kit for 10 to 12 hours. They had to wear adult diapers because they couldn't change and go and use a restroom during that 8 to 10 hours. So, it was at that point in time, I really jumped in anyway. My private practice was shut. There was a lockdown all across the country. And I took up this work in a big time of supporting the frontliners, of starting a crowdfunding. I started for the frontliners. We also went all out and supported the migrants who were going back to their states. And we started community kitchens. Also, the Helping Hands Charitable Trust started doing that. So I got very much, I think I got so busy than my routine life, during these last 6 months. Yes. So,
and what of that? I mean, you literally could have died because of that, right?
Yeah, well, I was getting exposed a lot, and my fear was always coming back home to my parents who are seniors. Trust me, it's been a while since I really sat with them, had a meal together on the same table. I always keep that distance. There are days which are like really overwhelming, and you really feel, what are you really doing? Because see, at the end of the day, you are also a human being. You want to, be hugged. You want to go and hug your parents. You want to sit with them, have a chat. But unfortunately, that fear factor of, oh my God, I don't want to infect them. I don't want them to fall ill of COVID. Really gets to you, so there were a lot of things. I mean, the main issue here with as a frontliner and as somebody who was working in COVID was coming back home and not being able to be with your family. So that has been the most difficult part of this whole last 6 months, and there are times when it's really difficult, Anu, because you have a very long bad day, and and at the end of the day you're all by yourself and you're really overwhelmed. Yeah,
Absolutely. In fact, you were so busy serving people that you forgot that you were not well. Can you
yes.
happen?
Yeah, so I mean, I am even embarrassed about what happened to me. At the same time, I'm very shocked because I think I was like a zombie fighting in this crisis of COVID, continuously on the feet, running around, attending to people, advising them, all of that. And I developed pelvic inflammatory disease because of a leftover tampon, and I didn't know for days on end. I mean, and then I would have landed up in an ICU with septicemia. My gynec said 10 hours late and you would be in a very bad state. And I absolutely...
Stop right there. Doctor many years back said to your father's mother that a few hours more and he will die.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know how he survived.
Mm-hmm.
And your doctor said the same thing to you.
Right.
Isn't that amazing that the Almighty has always been standing with you?
Absolutely, absolutely. The universe has always had my back. I think, I mean, I am eternally grateful. As you know, I've always had a very strong spiritual foundation thanks to my parents and my grandparents, and I'm a Krishna devotee. And even before a problem lands up into my life, I think the solutions are always laid, and put before the problems even arise. So yes, Krishna always has my back, universe always has my back. And this is exactly what happened. I was so oblivious to what was happening to me, and it could have been so critical and life threatening. I went through that, and then there was also a fear of, because ultrasound picked up an ovarian cyst, fibroid, and a polyp, and my gynec said it could be cancerous. You need to go in and get your ovarian markers, your cancer markers done. So I said, okay, fine. What needs to be done needs to be done. So I went ahead, I did that, and by God's grace, thankfully, touch wood, I am it's a benign ovarian cyst that I have, and I need to take some action against it, which I eventually will, So yes, that's what I realized, that how crazy it was. Like you said, yes, I lost track of my own life and what was happening. Yes.
Thank you so much, Neve, for sharing your life. And thank you so much for making people aware that when universe really backs you, universe really backs you.
Yeah, universe also backs. I feel if you really have that inner thing of, yes, I can. When you have that faith that the universe is willing to stand and have your back, provided you're willing to stand and not give up. I think that's the most important aspect, because if you come from the space of like, kuch nahi ho sakta hai and I'm done and like this is it, then there is, because you yourself don't have any hope or faith. So I think it's most important that yes, I can, and yes, I will is the most important factor, like, to really pull you through any kind of crisis, any kind of bad situation that you're going through in your life.
Thank you so much. I'm opening the forum for everybody to ask questions.
Yes, and I'll definitely love to take questions. And I would also like to end with sharing a screen of mine. It's a 2-minute video which I would like to share with everybody, with your permission.
Of course, and I would like you to share a poem of yours, the Hindi English one, if you have any.
Not right now, Anu. I mean, I don't have it right now with me, but maybe some other day. Yes.
That leaves it for another day.
Yeah.
She lights so beautifully, and it's Hindi English mix. And
Yeah.
just have the jhatka of that tadka. It's really amazing. Okay, questions, guys. या तो सब समझ में आ गया या कुछ समझ में नहीं आया. Acknowledge तो कर सकते हो.
It was wonderful, Doctor
Thank you, Bharat.
निवेदिता जी. हम लोग ने ना अनु जी से एक वर्कशॉप की जिसमें हमने ग्लासेस निकाल दिया. तो आपको एज एन ऑप्थेल्मोलॉजिस्ट हम पूछ रहे हैं कि आप क्यों ग्लासेस पहनती हैं?
Well, my glasses are presbyopic glasses, near wale, dur wale to nahi hai. So I'm like nearing my 50s. God was kind to me that I got a bonus of nearly 7 years. This last couple of years, I need my reading glasses. Yes.
Thank you. It was a very inspiring talk. Thank you.
Thanks, Bharat.
Anybody would like to acknowledge, say something before we see the video? Okay, you can put your question in the chat if you have any. Neve, you can go ahead and show the movie. Thank
Yeah,
you.
sure. Just let me, host is disabled. Can you?
Just enable you. Yes, done.
Share screen. Okay.
Yeah, it's happening.
Is it seen?
Yes.
Yeah.
See it, not hear it though.
निवेदिता आवाज नहीं आ रही है. We can't hear.
Wow, that's something.
Yeah, so that was that.
Thank you so much, Neve.
I don't know whether you guys could hear it, but
We couldn't hear it, but you can put the link in the group so that if people have missed out on the sound, they can. But
okay.
we could see it all and get the understanding of what you were trying to say to us.
Okay, sure. Thank you. I'll put it out.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you. I really, really thank you for bringing your story out. And I definitely wanted your story to be out because people often look at people and think that when they have perfect lives, that they can never, nothing can go wrong in their life and they never had challenges. And yet, God is very interesting. He always sends challenges in our way because He knows we can get over them.
Absolutely.
I can and I will is the story with which we will end this talk and go into the other one. Thank you
Thank you
so much.
so much. Thank you, everybody, for being such a patient listener. Thank you.
Okay, so this is what life is all about. And life sometimes is an inspiration. Sometimes you meet people who really leave a mark in your life. And so is Alka. I met her for the first time, I think a year back or less than a year back. She walked into my workshop and came all the way from Delhi, my husband's place, hometown, and she was with us. Lovely 2 days that we spent together.